In this lesson, we are going to study about congruent and similar figures. Let us see what congruent means and what similar figures mean. Congruent figures have the same size and shape. So if the figures have the same shape and the size is also the same, the figures are said to be congruent. These trapezoids are congruent. Look at these two trapezoids. 8 centimeters, 8 centimeters. 11 centimeters, 11 centimeters. 7 centimeters, 7 centimeters. 6 centimeters and 6 centimeters. So the shape and the size of the figures are congruent. Incongruent polygons, corresponding angles are congruent. What is the corresponding angle of T? It is Q, angle Q. Are they both congruent? 118 degrees, 118 degrees. So they both are congruent. Which is the corresponding angle of W in this trapezoid? It is R. So angle W is congruent to angle R. Which angle is congruent to angle U? Angle U, it is angle P. And which angle is congruent to angle V? It is angle S. So in congruent polygons, corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are congruent. Which is the corresponding side of WV in this trapezoid? It is SR. So these two sides are congruent. Which is the corresponding side of UV? It is PS. So UV is congruent to PS. Which is the corresponding side of TW? It is QR. And which is the corresponding side of TU? It is PQ or QP. So in congruent polygons, corresponding angles are congruent and corresponding sides are congruent. Let us look at similar figures. Similar figures have the same shape. They may or may not have the same size. Look at these triangles. They have the same shape, but are the sizes the same? No. So these triangles are similar. In similar polygons, corresponding angles are congruent. Which is the corresponding angle of B? It is Y. So are they congruent? Yes. Which is the corresponding angle of C? It is Z. So they are congruent. Which is the corresponding angle of A? It is X. And they are congruent. So in similar polygons, corresponding angles are congruent. What about their sides? In similar polygons, corresponding sides are proportional. So in similar figures, corresponding sides are proportional. What does it mean? Which is the corresponding side of AB? The corresponding side of AB in this triangle is XY. So AB over XY is equal to, which is the corresponding side of BC? It is YZ. So BC over YZ. XZ is equal to, which is the corresponding side of AC? XZ. So AC over XZ. Let's look at it in terms of numbers. AB is how much? 12 over XY is how much? 8. If you simplify that, okay, let's get into this. BC is how much? 6 over YZ is 4 equals AC is 9 and XZ is 6. Let's simplify this. If you simplify 12 over 8, how much will that be? 3 over 2. If you simplify 6 over 4, it is also 3 over 2. And if you simplify 9 over 6, it is also 3 over 2. So do you see that? In similar figures, corresponding sides are proportional. These triangles are congruent. Find the measure of angle H. If the triangles are congruent, the corresponding angles will also be congruent. So which is the corresponding angle of J? It is E. Which is the corresponding angle of B? It is M. Which is the corresponding angle of F? It is H. And we are supposed to find the measure of angle H. So if we find the measure of angle F, we can easily find the measure of angle H because they both are congruent. Now let us look at this triangle. We learned that if you add up all the angles in a triangle, it is always equal to 180 degrees. So 35 plus 67 plus the measure of angle F should be equal to 180 degrees. And 35 plus 67 is how much? 102 plus the measure of angle F is equal to 180 degrees. We want only the measure of angle F. How will we remove 102? Minus 102 on both sides. So the measure of angle F is equal to 180 minus 102, and that is equal to 78 degrees. So if the measure of angle F is 78 degrees, how much is the measure of angle H? It will also be 78 degrees because in congruent triangles, corresponding angles are equal. These quadrilaterals are similar. Find DG. Find DG, this side. If the figures are similar, we know that the corresponding sides are proportional. So let the side DG be X. For example, which is the corresponding side of DG in this trapezoid? It is NA. And which is the corresponding side of CK? It is AV. So the corresponding sides are proportional. X over 8 is equal to 18 over 9. We can easily find X by cross multiplying. X times 9 is 9X equals 8 times 18. So X is equal to 8 times 18 divided by 9. And that is 18 divided by 9 is how much? 2. And 8 times 2 is 16. So DG is 16 meters. These triangles are congruent. Find the measure of angle V and ON. If the triangles are congruent, the corresponding angles are congruent, are equal. So which is the corresponding angle of V? It is M. So if we find M, we can easily find V, because M and V will be the same. So in a triangle, if you add up all the angles, it's going to be 180 degrees. So 90, this angle, plus 31 plus the measure of angle M is equal to 180. 90 plus 31 is 121 plus the measure of angle M is equal to 180. Minus 121 on both sides, and the measure of angle M is going to be equal to 59 degrees. Since the measure of angle M is congruent to the measure of angle V, so how much will the measure of angle V be equal to? It will also be equal to 59 degrees. So we found the measure of angle V. Now we need to find ON. In congruent figures, the corresponding sides are also congruent. Which is the corresponding side of ON? It is WU. And how much is that? It's 5.25. So ON will also be 5.25. These parallelograms are similar. Find the measure of angle R, the measure of angle H, and SR. Now if the figures are similar, the corresponding angles are congruent. So which is the corresponding angle of D? It is R. So the measure of angle R is going to be equal to 45 degrees, because that is congruent to the measure of angle D. Which is the corresponding angle of H? It is S. So the measure of angle H will be same as the measure of angle S, which is 135 degrees, because they are congruent to measure of angle S. Now coming to the sides. If the figures are similar, we know that the ratio of the corresponding sides are in proportion. So which is the corresponding side of 8? It is 6. So 8 over 6 is equal to, which is the corresponding side of DH? It is SR. And how much is DH? 10. So 10 over SR. Let's cross multiply. 8 times SR is equal to 6 times 10. How will we remove 8? Dividing by 8 on both sides. So SR is going to be equal to 6 times 10 divided by 8, which is 60 divided by 8. And that is going to be equal to 7.5 centimeters or inch. It is inch. So in similar figures, the ratio of the corresponding sides are in proportion. Are all squares similar? Congruent? Explain. Are all squares similar? Do they have the same shape? Yes. But are all squares congruent? Is it necessary that all the squares must be of the same size? No. So all squares are similar, yes, but they may not be congruent. They are all similar because all angles measure 90 degrees. They are not all congruent because side lengths will vary.